welcome back to New World Closed Beta, Afterthoughts, Part 3. In this part we will be talking about stamina, light dodge rolling, weapon swap canceling, and the chase game. So this is probably something that most of you are familiar with if you did any sort of PvP in the closed beta, whether you were doing this yourself, you were using light armor, or doing the light dodge roll, you were canceling out after the dodge animation was done, or you were chasing somebody who was doing this and you're like, damn man, I cannot catch up to this guy because he's doing this bullshit. Well, let's talk about it. First, let's start talking about stamina. Stamina is already overly plentiful. Rather than being punished for draining your stamina to 0, you're actually rewarded by regaining your entire stamina bar in 3 seconds. So once you enter, you drop your stamina down to 0, you enter something called an exhaustive state. And during that exhaustive state, you can't dodge, you can't block, you can't jump. But once you reach that state, your stamina will go all the way back to 100 in 3 seconds. Now generally, when you're fighting and dodging, your stamina recharges pretty slow, especially if you're not spec'd into strength. Your stamina regen while attacking will be really low. If you're not using any of the dexterity weapons like bow or spear that specifically do give you stamina or stamina regeneration. Hatchet does too, but it's pretty small compared to the other ones. It's only 10 per critical hit. You'll get more on spear and bow. Now I do recognize that there is a small risk involved in getting to the exhaustive state, especially in a melee battle, as you'll be more open to attacks and other CC for 3 seconds and there's nothing you can do about it. But in this case we're talking about something different. If you're using it to run away and using light armor, then you are running no risk and all reward. You can dodge roll, weapon swap, wait half a second for your stamina to regen to 51, so once you do your first dodge roll you'll be at 50, wait half a second you'll be at 51 because it'll go by 1. Dodge roll again, weapon swap, dodge roll, weapon swap. Now at this point you'll be at the exhaustive state, but you did 3 dodge rolls and you weapon swap canceled out of each of those. Now that's probably about like 20 or 30 feet that a distance you just created between you and the guy that you're presumably running away from or possibly chasing, but most likely running away from. Clear the gap between you and your opponent. Even if your opponent is using the great axe, you can outpace them by doing this tactic. So at the end of your 3 dodge rolls, you'll be back at full stamina in 3 seconds and you can just repeat the process. If you choose so, you can never be caught. Throw this in with a rapier or a bow and the distance you can cover is even greater. For instance, if you swap to your bow, there's a perk that will grant you 20 stamina on each weapon swap, making this even more broken. And with rapier you can use flesh, which will propel you forward to cover even more distance. Let's talk about this in another scenario. How can this be used aside from running away? People really slept on a lot of weapons during the closed beta, specifically range weapons like the musket and the bow. The kiting potential these weapons have, especially the bow musket combo, is insane. And you can lay out your damage with musket and use this tactic with the bow to run away. So you can create distance with the bow, swap to your musket, nail them down. You'll never be caught and you can kill anyone with this. If they engage you, if they're dumb enough to engage you, you can just kite and kill them. If they disengage you, you can kill them from a distance. There's no downside to using this tactic in open world PvP. Bottom line, weapon swap canceling after dodging needs to be fixed. This is a new bug that was just introduced in the closed beta. This was never there in alpha. It's an unintended bug that needs to be squashed before launch. All it does is further promotes the ability to run away and disengage, which is already a huge problem in New World. So let's talk about the exhaustive state. Like what I mentioned before, when you reach 0 stamina, you enter in this state. You're unable to dodge, block, or jump for 3 seconds. To me, this state should be more punishing. I would extend this state from 3 seconds to about 5 or 6 seconds in order to promote proper stamina management and increase the skill cap versus draining it to 0 with no thought. If they're able to increase the punishment, because right now it doesn't even feel like a punishment, the skill ceiling will be much higher and I think it will provide better combat for everybody. All of this and a bit more contributes to New World's cat and mouse game. Too often you are chasing people or too often you're the one running away from people, and you can do both successfully. New World provides all the tools necessary to disengage from any combat situation at will, and I hope to see this is changed at launch. Many people have not experienced high-end play. They do not realize how plentiful stamina will end up being. There should be other things that will allow you to put drains on stamina. I'm not talking about applying the exhaustive debuff where you have 10% or 15% slower stamina regen. I'm talking about something that you can, aside from block, where you can attack somebody's stamina pool. So you can attack somebody's HP pool. Why can't you, aside from blocking, why can't you not also attack their stamina pool and their mana pool? This will make the combat a bit more complex. Stamina regen overall should be lowered, but I think first adjusting the exhaustive state, extending that and doubling it, perhaps even longer, but I think we should just double the time first and then see how that goes, or perhaps adding more onto it. What if you could not use an ability while you're in exhaustive state? Now that would be interesting, and that would make it a lot more punishing and a lot more thought required behind draining all your stamina and not just doing it willy-nilly. So those are my thoughts on stamina, light dodge rolling, weapon swap canceling, and the chase game in New World. Thanks for watching. Peace.